What makes decimals terminate or repeat in algebra? Have you ever wondered why some decimal numbers seem to go on forever while others stop after just a few digits? This question is all about the fascinating world of rational numbers in algebra. Let's break it down in a simple way. When we talk about decimals that come from fractions, we are dealing with rational numbers. These decimals can either terminate, meaning they end after a certain number of digits, or repeat, which means they continue indefinitely in a pattern. The key to understanding this lies in the denominator of the fraction after it is simplified. First, take a fraction like the one represented as p over q to determine if its decimal will terminate or repeat. We need to simplify it. This means reducing the fraction so that p and q have no common factors. Once we have the fraction in its simplest form, we can focus on the denominator, which is q. Now, let's look at the prime factors of the denominator. If the only prime factors of q are 2 and 5, then the decimal will terminate. For example, consider the fraction 3 over 16. The denominator 16 can be factored into 2 raised to the power of 4. Since it only contains the prime number 2, the decimal representation will terminate. Another example is the fraction 11 over 40. The denominator 40 can be factored into 2 raised to the power of 3 multiplied by 5. Again, since it only contains the primes 2 and 5, the decimal will also terminate. On the other hand, if the denominator has any prime factor other than 2 or 5, the decimal will repeat. For instance, take the fraction 1 over 3. The denominator 3 does not include 2 or 5, so its decimal representation is 0.3 repeating. Another example is 7 over 12. The denominator 12 can be factored into 2 squared multiplied by 3. Because of the presence of the prime number 3, the decimal representation will repeat. So why does this happen? Our decimal system is based on powers of 10, which breaks down into the prime factors 2 and 5. When the denominator can be expressed solely with these primes, the fraction can be converted into a decimal that ends after a certain number of places. If there are other prime factors, the decimal cannot be expressed as a finite decimal and instead repeats. Understanding whether a decimal terminates or repeats is very useful in algebra. It helps when simplifying expressions, converting decimals to fractions, and recognizing patterns in numbers. This knowledge also assists in solving equations that involve decimal approximations. If you ever encounter a repeating decimal, you can convert it back into a fraction using some algebraic methods. This involves setting the decimal equal to a variable and manipulating the equation to isolate the repeating part. This shows the close relationship between decimals and fractions in algebra. To sum it up, a decimal will terminate if, after simplification, the denominator's prime factors are only 2 and 5. If there are other prime factors, the decimal will repeat. This understanding of rational numbers helps learners grasp the behavior of decimals in algebra.